His Royal Highness, Prince Turki Al Faisal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. Prince Turki is a founder and chairman of the King Faisal Foundation and chairman of the King Faisal Center for Research and Islamic Studies. He was born in Mecca. He was schooled in Taif and in the United States, completing his studies across town at Georgetown University, where he later served as visiting distinguished professor. In 1973, he was appointed advisor to the Royal Court, and in 1977, appointed as Director General of the General Intelligence Directorate, Saudi Arabia's main foreign intelligence service. He led the Directorate with a rank of minister until 2001. He then served successfully as ambassador to the United Kingdom and then here at home in the United States until his retirement in 2007. Since then, he has served in a variety of prestigious roles around the world, including an active role in the World Economic Forum and on a variety of important boards. He has received numerous awards and honorary degrees that would take the rest of the afternoon to list. We could not be more pleased than to welcome our longtime friend to the United States and to all Americans to share with us his insights about the world we live in at this juncture in history. Your Royal Highness, the room is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My thanks and gratitude goes to my friends John Pratt, Chairman of the Board of Directors, and Delano Roosevelt, President of the Council, for the kind invitation extended to me to speak to such a distinguished audience attending this 33rd Annual Arab-U.S. Policymakers Conference. John Duke, how are you, my friend? Ladies and gentlemen, today His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman is in Washington, and what a glamorous and glorious reception he received from President Trump. This coincidence of his presence while our conference is being held, although not planned, yet it is meaningful. It is the symbol of what ties our two countries together. I am sure His Highness will impress on President Trump and the American people the need to resolve the issue of Palestine so that both of our people can leave behind the death and destruction meted out to the Palestinian people by a merciless colonial Israeli leadership and pursue peace and prosperity for all of us, American, Palestinian, Israeli, and Saudi people. Talking about the current situation in the Middle East is a rehearsal of old talks about the troubled Middle East. However, it is not only the Middle East region that is troubled and is in a state of uncertainty. Wherever we look today on the map of the globe, we find that there is a crisis in every corner, and without a clear horizon to find appropriate solutions that solve the problems, not manage them. In Europe, a destructive war is raging in Ukraine, involving great powers. In Africa, underreported conflicts, wars, and internal strife are spreading across that unlucky continent. The Far East is also not immune from crisis and future crises. India and Pakistan and Afghanistan are cases at hand. In Latin America, it is the US and Venezuela. In the Middle East, wars are becoming almost normal in this conflict-cursed region. All issues mentioned are not only challenges facing our world, but also they represent geopolitical risks which are symptoms of deep structural problems in the existing international order caused by failure of our world community to live to the principles of world good governance as set in the Charter of the United Nations 80 years ago. Therefore, without restructuring international governance, geopolitical risks will continue to rise and threaten world peace and security. Our standing world order is not anymore unipolar and not yet multipolar, but moving to become a polycentric world if relations between great powers fail to bring back order to a crumbling, outdated international order. Uncertainty will continue as the order of the day in the world. Where the Middle East will be in such a transforming world is a big question. Alas, I repeat today what I said last year at this gathering. Recurring troubles in this region are endemic diseases. The Middle East nowadays is not only troubled, but is still in a state of strategic confusion. This state of confusion, not so exclusive to the Middle East, is contributing immensely to the continuation and escalation of conflicts. It also creates new conflicts that complicate the situation in a region where every crisis begets another crisis and where every issue is linked to another issue. Strategic confusion in the Middle East means a state of sharp polarization, multiplicity of issues of conflict, and multiplicity of competing actors dealing with the situation on an ad hoc basis. Added to this is the absence of world leadership. The lack of clear-cut direction or strategy aiming to bring conflicts to peaceful ends and to create the necessary conditions for peace, stability, and security is a common denominator of all policies in the region. This situation is responsible for unleashing all kinds of political, social, religious, sectarian forces, non-state actors, terrorist groupings, and regional and international interferences that complicate indigenous solutions to indigenous crises. Palestine, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Sudan are issues at hand. It is the responsibility of leading powers in the region and the world to solve such conflicts in a just and fair manner. Alas, leading world powers and regional powers are complicating and worsening the situation by their failed policies, by their irresponsible actions, and their unwanted involvement, their biased positions, and their double standards. All of this is behind such confusion that is not helping in figuring out solutions to conflicts in the Middle East. The mother of all conflicts and the cause of continuing misery is the Middle East. In the Middle East is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This fact was ignored by many in the world for decades. However, thank God, as we say in Arabic, Alhamdulillah, realizing this fact is now clear to the majority of states of the international community, and unfortunately, with heavy bloodshed. This conflict remains the most dangerous challenge to the region. It has been and remains the cause of hampering many regional projects during the past 8 decades. Without a just solution that takes into consideration the legitimate demand of the Palestinian people for self-determination, this area will never experience stability and will remain exposed to all negative possibilities. In this respect, we must not forget the fate of regional initiatives presented during the 90s of the past century and which were doomed due to the faltering of the peace process. We're all aware that the Arab countries welcomed the march towards peace, which commenced in Madrid with the hope of solving this conflict within the parameters of international norms and resolutions. All initiatives stopped at Israeli and United States doors, and mostly they are the ones to be blamed for this failure. This failure is behind the destructive war in Gaza, which I hope is coming to an end. For the last 2 years, the Gaza Strip has been under indiscriminate attack by the Israeli army, persistently targeting lives, infrastructure, and all elements vital for human survival. This demonstrated a blatant disregard for humanitarian values, norms, and laws meant to protect non-combatants, including civilians, children, women, and the elderly. Hospitals, schools, and other institutions essential for public life are not spared from this devastation. Israel's relentless and destructive response to the events of October 7th, for which Hamas is condemned and accountable, regardless of its motives, epitomizes disregard to international law and world public opinion. The war on Gaza fundamentally represents a political failure stemming from arrogance and unfounded convictions that led to ignoring suffering endured by the besieged people of Gaza. The West Bank, equally, is scarred by the Israeli army and lawless colonists mistakenly named settlers. Israel perceived an opportunity in this relative calm of the West Bank and the weakened state of the Palestinian Authority to further its agenda of Judaizing Palestine and its sacred sites. These delusions are also led Israel to misconstrue Arab overtures for peace as a sign of waning interest in the primary regional concern, which is the Palestinian cause. It failed to acknowledge that peace, stability, and security in the region hinge upon resolving this just cause, even if it normalized relations with all Arab states. By dismissing both Arab and non-Arab peace initiatives and flouting international resolutions, Israel presumed its policies succeeded in shifting blame onto the victim, leveraging the support of its backers and allies that dominate the international media and decision-making spheres, particularly within Western nations led by the United States. Irrespective of the outcome of this brutal war, Israel cannot evade the repercussions of its prolonged occupation, its arrogance, and its genocidal policies against the Palestinian people and their sacred sites. The Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and other Palestinian organizations shoulder a significant burden for their failure. They were unable to reconcile their differences and bridge the persistent divides among them, giving grounds for Israel and others to sideline, isolate, and weaken them. The war on Gaza has laid bare the glaring hypocrisy and double standards among the elites of Western nations, particularly in the United States. They have long propagated an image of advancing civilization and a commitment to moral, humanitarian, and legal principles, as well as global peace. This revelation is not new to our region, and it is increasingly becoming apparent to their own people who once believed in these proclaimed values. The hundreds of thousands who continue to demonstrate in American cities and in all of the world in support of Palestinian independence is proof that the people of the world do not accept the double standard of their leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, despite vocal support for a two-state solution, the US and the Europeans have not exerted sufficient pressure to move Israel to make it a reality. This war highlights Israel's reliance on the US as its advocate and guardian, seemingly dictating the latter's policy to serve its agenda. Thus, the complete responsibility to bring peace to the region and resolve this prolonged conflict that jeopardizes security and stability lies with the U.S. The close bond between the United States and Israel has eroded the former's credibility as a mediator in this conflict. While the hope that the fragile current ceasefire will hold and the war ends, there is no other option to moving toward establishing and recognizing a Palestinian state by adhering to international resolutions, specifically UN General Assembly Resolution 181 of 1948 and UN Security Council Resolutions 242 and 338. Talking without walking by wise world leaders will not bring definitive resolution to the Palestinian issue. It is time to be up to the ideals of a rule-based international order and international law if they remain. Failing this time by not being fair to the last colonized indigenous people of Palestine is proof of the fickleness of all ideals. Israel is not an exceptional state to escape the dictates of conscience and international law. In relation to the Gaza war, the Gulf region has witnessed the aggressive naked attack by Israel on the sovereignty of Qatar. This attack is a reminder to all countries of the Gulf that their common security is under threat by a pariah state that does not heed any law or rule governing international relations. This attack is an eye-opener to question the credibility and reliability of alliances when threats come from Israel. This dictates on our states to rethink the nature of threats and to rebuild their strategic policies to rebalance in all means to face such threats. Israel must not be allowed a free hand. Ladies and gentlemen, in relation to the Palestinian issue, Saudi Arabia publicly and privately is committed to finding a just, peaceful solution to this conflict. This commitment is not new. Saudi Arabia supported all international initiatives and all UN Security Council resolutions designed to solve this issue peacefully. It was also the originator of two major regional initiatives, the King Fahd 8-point peace proposal in 1981 and the King Abdullah Arab Peace Initiative of 2002. The two initiatives were adopted by all Arab states and presented to the world. Israel ignored both of them. Saudi Arabia still believes in the viability of the Arab Peace Initiative as the fairest plan presented so far by all other parties. However, it will continue to support any initiative that brings about a just solution accepted by the Palestinians. Out of this belief that the two-state solution is the only viable option, the Kingdom is leading with France the efforts to bring the rest of the world to recognize the Palestinian state and to convince those who are not convinced that peace in the Middle East rests on solving this outstanding issue justly. Norway also deserves applause for being a staunch supporter of Palestinian independence. The United States should build on its current efforts to end the Gaza war and take the most important step in heeding the voices of its friends and allies in the region to support the principles of the Arab Peace Initiative and push for resolving this protracted conflict. Leaders walk the extra steps for peace to be seen as great leaders. President Trump, it is your turn to be that leader. Lead your 20-point ceasefire proposal to the inevitable 21st point. Take the visit of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed as the opportunity to recognize the Palestinian state and end the bloodshed of Palestinians and Israelis forever. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. We are so grateful for your participation today, and you've once again enlightened us beyond measure. We thank you and cherish you for it. Thank you.